online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Starts slow and starts to mount.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We'll give a little time to sit in.
Come get some.
Come get some. Welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV, and of course, we're here for our show, our new show, of Kings and Prophets.
Yes. Premiere week.
Yes, it was premiere week. I premiered the very first episode, and we'll get into that. I'm Chris Howard. You can reach me during this episode. Feel free to tweet out at us and or put some print underneath the video. Let us know what you're thinking. We want to engage you in the conversation. You are co-hosting with us, and you can reach me at Chris Howard Live or at legendarylivingdaily.com or legendarylivingtv.com for YouTube. And
I'm Chris's co-host here with McCall. My name is Katerina Cozias, and you can reach me on Twitter at Katerina Cozias. You can also check me out via my website. It's globalgab.com. That's global-gab.com, where we talk International Gab Fest.
Nice.
International Gab Fest.
Yeah.
Well,
You want to
like
tune into that?
international gab.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Chinese gab, African gab.
Absolutely.
What's up? It's your girl, McCall Hall. You can find me on social media at McCall Hall when sports and pop culture collide. Now check it out. I'm on chat duty tonight, so I've already got a couple of questions, and I'm making sure to check it. So if you guys have something to ask us, I'll make sure to check in here and there, and we'll bring it up during the show live and shout you out.
Shout you out, and so McCall Hall is like with 3 or 4 different O's.
4 O's in the so.
Yes.
So McCall.
Is there any metaphorical meaning to the 4 O's?
No,
No?
I like long names and things of that nature. I don't know. I was obsessed with the show That's So Raven back in the day.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So.
Blame Raven Simone.
Beautiful. Well, we want to welcome you once again. We're doing Of Kings and Prophets. We just watched the episode ourselves.
Yeah.
We're fresh.
We are fresh off of the episode, and you know when I booked on for this, when I signed on for this, I was looking for the biblical relevance and the metaphorical relevance to see, okay, what are you going to put out there? Is there something to be learned from this?
What do you think?
I'm curious what brought you to you guys, because we signed on to the show. We wanted to do the show. For me, it was like, is there something to be learned in the deep and rich metaphors from biblical reference? How about you guys?
You know what attracted me to the show was the fact that it seems to be one of those epics, like a Game of Thrones or a Vikings or Spartacus. So I like big epic tales, and I love anything to do with history. So this seemed right on, right down my alley.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I love God, so I figured this might be a good show to hop on. The Lord kind of brought me to it. But no, seriously, I was driving down the street and I saw a really cool billboard. Like the advertisements and the creative work was just so engaging. Mm-hmm. So between God and advertising, I said, let me hop on.
Yeah, God and sex and violence. I mean, what more could you want, right?
And you know what I liked about the timing of this show is it's right around Easter time, right?
That's
so you
true.
get all the big Bible epics. I'm sure a little bit of that went into their thinking with the programming.
Yes,
And
yes.
I think I heard that this show was supposed to premiere in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
No kidding. I didn't know.
And so now it's premiering a little bit closer to Easter.
Right.
So I don't have the exact reason why they pushed it back, but my mind is assuming
Divine
it's probably
timing, right.
Could be a little
for
bit of that,
the
right?
divine connection.
Connection.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And we've read some other reviews out there. We've seen a lot of talk out there. Because for me, part of the suspense and the waiting for it was that was kind of exciting. I was really excited about the show, what it would have to offer. I've read a couple of reviews that didn't look so kindly upon it. We said that the ratings were
low. Ratings came in the lowest in its time slot, which I found interesting because I thought this would be a big attraction.
Yeah, I think it's going to build. It's like they had 3 million. You said viewers
3 million
that
viewers.
watched. Yeah, and I think that it's going to build. I think the Lord is with this show. But it's interesting to me because it's got to find its target, and who is the target for this show? Is it the Bible thumper? We said, and I say that with reverence.
Right.
But is it the Bible thumper? Is it the person that's into Game of Thrones or the Shannara Chronicles and likes that medieval feel, or is it somebody else? Who do you think is the perfect viewer for this show?
Well, I think they were trying to leverage the popularity of the Game of Thrones and those medieval shows, right? But then there are people like me who have somewhat of a familiarity with the Bible.
Right.
And, we're not looking at these shows to be so graphic and have so many complexities. We're trying to really relate it to what we read in the Bible and,
Were you looking more for biblical content versus Hollywood drama?
Yeah, there's a lot of Hollywood drama with it. And, I just will admit, it was a challenge.
And there was a lot
me.
of drama in the Bible.
There was a lot of drama in the Bible. So, it was definitely a challenge for me. So, I don't know who their target audience is yet based off of this first episode.
Right.
Maybe it will begin to shake out.
Well, see, I wonder if they know, though. And I don't mean that with disrespect. It's just like, do they really know who that's going to hit? And when they do, like they just had the, what was the movie that just came out with Risen?
Oh, yeah.
The movie Risen about, Christ rising from the afterworld. And the question is, who's the audience for that? I love these types of movies, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I love the depth of it, and I love the historical reference and the...
Right.
And I think this story, I'm sure the season will evolve because this is going to fascinate. This is one of the greatest stories in the Bible, and David and Goliath and Saul and so I think it's great that they finally decided to tackle that.
Yeah.
And I think that we'll see a lot over these episodes. I expect it's going to evolve really quite nicely.
That's I'm blessing it with the same thing. I'm hoping for the same thing because it's I like the show. I'm glad that it's there. I love tales that teach.
Yeah.
And so, for my perspective, I'll be looking to glean what is there to be learned from this. And I like the fact also that we can use, the Hollywood can be so entertaining and use that medium to deliver classic messages in a modern day.
Yeah.
And it's got a little bit of everything. It's got bedroom politics, it's got romance, it's got blood and guts and, everything.
So we're going to get to all that, yeah. And they said we could talk about the blowjob that happened, so.
I got to take a drink.
I propose that we play a little drinking game. Every time we say blowjob, you guys have to drink. It doesn't have to be alcohol. Whatever you're sipping.
Whatever you got at home.
That doesn't sound very holy to me.
Whatever you've
I
got
just
at
feel
home.
like this show and this season will have a lot of that.
Yeah.
So we'll get our audience pretty drunk.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to play McCall's drinking game, you can reach out to her, hashtag...
At So McCall Hall.
At So McCall Hall, right. All right, so let's take the episode. Let's start where it started. And it was a little bit tough to follow. You had mentioned that you watched about 20 minutes of it?
I watched about 20 minutes of it when it premiered last night.
Right.
And I got a little lost, so I was happy to be able to watch it again today. And it cleared up a little bit of that. It started right at the beginning with the attack on the sheep, and you weren't sure if that was a dream or what that was, what was going on there. But it was a nice way to introduce David, whom I thought was cast quite well.
Yeah, a little weird wig. But I liked him, but I thought the wig work was good.
See, it's interesting. There's so many different programs that have featured David in there, so everybody's rendition of David is a little bit different. But yeah, the wig. Might need a little more hairspray.
Yeah.
Maybe a little
They didn't
less.
have it back then. That's probably there's the problem.
He's
right?
battling a lion. Come on.
Yeah. Leave him alone. Leave his hair alone. But so it starts with the dream, or not a dream sequence. It's actually happening where David is asleep.
Graphically.
I read online somebody had written a review that said David was a really shitty sheep herder because he missed his first job, which was to stay awake so the lion can't get your sheep. But he slept through the lion coming and eating the sheep, and that was this traumatic experience for him. I liked that. I thought it was a good scene. What'd y'all think of the right out the gate? We got the blood and guts and the.
Well, kudos to their graphics team and you know, all the production team, because just off the bat you can already tell they've put a lot of effort and time and probably a lot of money into making sure this is graphically as engaging as possible. So
The show production values are there, right? The cinematography, the lighting, all of that.
that's the word I was looking for. Cinematography.
Cinematography was beautiful.
You can use big words, McCall. It's
You know,
within
once
you.
in a blue moon. Once in a blue moon. But yeah, the cinematography was off the hook, so that grabbed me right away.
Yeah.
And you know, this was shot on location in South Africa.
Really?
So they shot all of this out there, which is why we're getting some really authentic desert scenes. Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat. It's did you think that lion looked very authentic? I
had a bit of an issue with the paws. The paws were looking a little fake to me.
The face looked a little bit doing to me, but you know, all in all, I liked the episode. I really did. I don't mean to knock it. I did enjoy it. So we start with the attacks or the sheep being slaughtered, and first thing I'm thinking is there a metaphor in that for
the rest of the episode?
Yeah, for the rest of the episode,
which there actually was.
Because they were saying that they called them the savage Philistines, and you know, the savage Philistine attacks. They said, I kind of take that with a grain of salt, because there's always, you know, it's like, wait a second, they're placing meaning on one side of a battle,
right?
But so you
one-sided.
A one-sided battle. Yeah. So there's two tribes that were attacking, and they said that they had this onslaught of attacks. You had King Saul, who was defending against the Philistine attacks and looking to unite the tribes, the 12 tribes of Israel. When y'all were watching this, because it rhymes with
Saul.
McCall,
And
Saul,
McCall. We gotta go
y'all. We gotta come up with But when you were watching it, did the biblical significance and the gravitas nature of the source material, did that weigh into your consciousness at all? And did you think at all about what's happening currently in Israel and Palestine? And
No, I didn't. And just the relation to like who people were, it took me a while to even kind of grasp that. You know, for that first 10, 15 minutes, I was really just trying to just take it all in. I wasn't able to kind of piece things together and relate it to anything current or anything in the past. I was just taking it for what it was.
It did get a little easier to watch as the show progressed. I agree. The first few minutes, you're trying to figure out who's who and what's what, and
I plugged in because you had told me that you're like, it's difficult to follow. I'm like,
pay
okay,
attention.
Let me see. And you said everybody looks the same,
and it did.
Right, but one critic said there were two white guys in it, and that was David and the other guy who rise to.
And, you know, when you said this was filmed in South Africa, and I'm kind of looking at the casting, and somebody brought this up on our chat. Let's see, Area Don Benet, forgive me, I probably just butchered your name, but you know who you are, shout out. She asked, what did you think of the casting choices? That's my question.
Interesting.
And to hear that they filmed in South Africa, I'm like, I didn't really see a reflection. And not to say that we have to have, you know, brown people, but it just seemed like some of the castings were kind of off. The people in power, it just seemed kind of segregated. Who was in power versus who.
What I found was a little interesting is King Saul himself, right, who is Roy Winston is the actor, who's a British actor. He was very British, pink-faced, light, and all of his children were,
everybody
you know,
had
that
dark
classic,
hair.
darker featured. So that was a little bit off to me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed him as the character of King Saul, but he wasn't matching the kids.
And somebody else said online
that was a little bit off
that the only other two, there were two guys that were clearly white that were going to rise to rule everybody.
Yeah.
You know, David and so there's a little. There could be something in that. I don't know.
We're only 1 week off of the Oscars, you guys. We still got a lot of work to do.
And I'm doing the O.J. Simpson show at the same time, so you know.
But you could say that this is actually a very diverse show in that respect.
True.
Yeah, that's true. They did mix it up. There was when you saw the king of the other tribes of the, what were they called, the Amalekites? Is that how you say it? Amalekites?
Amalekites,
Yeah, Amalek. Please forgive me. I've got to go to school.
We've got to brush up on our Bible.
Yeah, we were saying this as we were watching it. We're like, oh dang, you know.
I would love to read your notes and your notes and my notes to see how we spelled some of the names.
Amalekites.
Yeah.
We're phonetically going at it.
Yahoo.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the biblically, it was like, and he begot who begot this person, who begot that. It's like it's easy to get lost in all of that. And our perspective with this is we're going to do the best we can to break it down. And this is why we want you to participate as well. We'll bring some guests on the show as well that come from different religious backgrounds we talked about.
They could weigh in a little bit on the content.
Different perspectives. Like we've got some religious leaders that are friends and stuff that we can bring into.
Yeah, because if you're waiting on me to have a real strong understanding of the context, I went to Sunday school, okay, but that was like 20 years ago. So we have to bring in a professional.
Where have you been?
Right.
Where's your Bible?
Sorry, Grandma.
Where's your Bible?
Sorry, Grandma.
But we can break it down from the perspective of the show. But we will be bringing people in from a religious perspective, a spiritual perspective, and ultimately there's a whole lot of perspectives. So I don't want to just take a one slanted perspective of it and look at it, from a singular religious perspective. I would say.
You know what I found interesting was the command, if you will, that came down from the prophet to Saul.
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Which was, hey, you've got your plan, but God or Elohim?
How do they say that? It was
Elohim.
Who is God, is dictating to you that you must change your plans and kill all of the enemies.
Amalekites.
The Amalekites.
We're going to get this
and
down.
The Philistines, and so you
kill
saw a
the
bit of a
women
battle
and children,
of will there.
Literally to commit genocide.
Absolutely.
So it was the prophet Samuel, and this of Kings and Prophets is based on the book of Samuel from the Bible. And so that was fascinating. We'll come back to that again because that's
a little bit later
really
on.
big, But let's see. So it starts out, and basically it sets out that they're talking about King Saul fending off the Palestine. How do they call them? They call them the
Philistines.
Philistines. Yeah. I'm assuming that relates to the Palestinian state today, and it's like it's hard for me to. We're going to school here, ladies.
Right,
which is good. I mean, shoot, we can go to school together, so we're going to go to school
together.
Yeah, it's like Sunday school but fun, and we say blowjob.
Drink.
Drink. Yes. So. So Saul's fending off the attacks of the Philistines when we start. We've got, it says, little does he know that David's going to be his greatest asset in this united. How do you say unitation? You can't say unitation.
Unity.
Yeah, bringing the unity of the tribes of Israel.
And David's made to look like such a shortcomer early on. He's just made to look like
He's
that
hanging
ultimate
out with
loser.
with his slingshot,
Yeah.
right? But they're getting us ready for that sling. They showed the slingshot quite a few times,
That
so we
was
know
impressive.
it's coming in.
Yeah, it's got some power in that slingshot, and I got to say, doesn't he remind you a little bit of the who's the guy? Is Peter the shorter guy on Game of Thrones?
Yes,
he looks like him.
He looks a lot like him, and in the trailer, when I watched the trailer, I thought it might have been him. I thought, oh, gee, did they
What's his last name? It's like Dinklage or Dinklage,
yes,
something like that. Yeah, he has the same look,
similar features.
The other, what's the word? Doppelganger.
Doppelganger.
I'm gonna learn.
Say it one more time. Say it one more time.
Doppelganger.
Oh, that was pretty good.
Doppelganger.
Yeah,
so the other doppelganger, forgive me, that I saw in this show was the concubine. She looked like Jennifer Lawrence to me. I kept thinking that was Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence.
Maybe in the X-Men.
Like a brunette Jennifer.
Yeah, like something about her.
I thought the
bone
concubine
structure.
was much prettier than Jennifer Lawrence. Personally, no
Really?
offense, Jen.
She said it.
So you were into
No
the
offense,
concubine.
Jen.
Yeah. I don't know if they did that back then. Yeah, of course they did. They did everything. This is crazy. Right? So we've got doppelganger, right? We've got David says he's going to kill the wolf. So here's the thing. What did you think about the scene in the market with the tax? He's out there to pay the tax. He was out there twice. There were two scenes.
I thought he was a stand-up guy. I mean, he offered to go after the lion in order to pay back the debt, if you will. So that was a stand-up move.
See, I don't know that I get the logic in that. How is going after the lion and getting the lion going to pay the debt of the tax? Is it the meat? Is it the skin?
I think it's going to stop future killings, future losses.
Okay.
It's gonna stop the losses of other sheep.
Got it.
Yeah.
So he's saving the flock.
And saving himself from being flogged.
And there's the metaphor again. right? The metaphor of saving the flock, and the king saving the flock of people and the entire people.
And the sheep, right? The shepherd and his sheep.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you guys remember or have ever heard of this, but the tax collector in the Bible is really one of the most hated and unfavored
He still
people.
is.
Yeah, exactly.
Taxes are good. Pay your taxes. We all.
But you know, it's amazing the things that people do and how fearful they are of somebody who, in God's eye, is honestly very wrong and immoral. The tax collector.
Yeah. So they're saying in God's eyes, the tax collector, because what? They're living off of other people.
Yeah, I don't know the full backstory, but I just remember. Back
when Jesus went in and threw the tables up, and the tax collectors, and didn't they always? The tax collectors were always Jewish, of the Jewish persuasion, weren't they?
Oh, I don't know, and I don't even want to speculate.
You don't even want to go there.
I don't want to go there.
I mean, everyone back then was Jewish, right?
Well, that's true.
But is anyone?
Everyone wasn't Jewish.
I'm guessing you're not Jewish.
Well, Sammy Davis Jr. is only my third cousin.
Is he your third cousin?
No, he's not.
Oh,
but he was Jewish.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah.
Ah, interesting. Interesting. One of my, I want to get somebody from the Kabbalah Center here to come in and give their take on it from that perspective. But I think that they did, because when we look at these stories, like I said before, it starts right out the bat saying the savage Philistine attacks. Well, Saul was going out and committing genocide and killing women and children in the name of God. Yeah. So, to jump to one side or to the other, take one religion's perspective, I think.
But I think that's again a metaphor to what's happening today, because you can say that who's correct in the Syrian conflict. Is it the one side or the other side? And depending on what perspective you're coming in from, you think you're right. Yeah. And that's classically been the way throughout history.
Yeah. And he
who wins writes the history books, right?
Oh yes, that was too good. That was too good. Yeah, and they'll write people into history, write people out of history. That's why people like Alexander the Great would have a historian that would travel with him, writing the story of his life in a way that was self-aggrandizing and making him out to be the savior of the world. And that's how all these stories are. That's why they call it history. Right. His story, her story. It's all just a story. But these are some of the most cherished stories that have been passed down through time. And you had pointed out, McCall, before we started about the biblical lessons that are in there, the wisdom. And what really struck me, I'll just bring it up right now, was what you had brought up, because Saul was commanded by Samuel, the prophet. Now, the prophet was given power before Saul came onto the scene. Yeah. The prophet, then Samuel was pressured by the people to have a king that was put in place. He put Saul in place as kind of an intermediary, but Samuel was supposed to be the voice of God incarnate.
Yeah, exactly.
And so Samuel tells Saul, you have to go kill, you just killed these other Philistine tribes or whatever. You got to now go kill. Boy, I'm gonna kill the word.
The Amalekites.
The Amalekites.
Yeah, Amalekites.
You got to kill them. The women, the children, everything.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
And he chose not to kill the king.
Right. Why?
Because he's greedy. Look, this is what I took from it. Because I am religious. Regardless of my complete understanding of the Bible, I still trust and obey the Lord, right? And sometimes, this is what I took it as. Sometimes God will bring you a message, in my opinion, and what I've been taught. And sometimes he'll bring it to you in a different carrier. It might be a person, it might be a donut, whatever. Listen to the voice.
He brought it to you in a donut. That's what happened.
I had messages in Krispy Kreme.
But that's what happened. God brought you messages in donuts, and that's why you put the weight on.
Exactly. Exactly. But see, Saul was not listening to God, right? And he wanted to prove to mortals, people here on earth, that he had this power. God was already telling him, I'm going to take care of your power if you just obey my word. And it came from the prophet, but he didn't want to listen.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, he clearly didn't want to listen, because he spared the Amalekite king. Which came back and bit him in the butt.
It blew up in his face. That blew up in his face.
That's the part I find weird, because Saul said exactly what I would think, right? He's like, no, wait a second, the God that I know isn't going to tell me to go out and kill women and children.
Yes,
but sometimes you don't always understand. You see, this is where I'm going to start getting religious.
Here we go. This is
sometimes you don't understand. some of the messages that whatever your higher power is, sometimes you get a rejection and you don't understand, well, why did I get this rejection? Because next week there is a bigger blessing for you, right? That's what I kind of picked up on.
So you're taking the metaphorical meaning of that, because, I mean, today you could have a guy that goes in, dresses up with weird color hair and shoots up a theater of people with, at the Batman movie, and it says that God told him to do it. Now, that's not what he claimed in his defense.
Right.
But that's what Saul claimed.
Yeah, I mean, we hear about stories like this happening biblically, and in today's day and age, we'd say the guy was a kook.
Right. But historically and throughout the Bible, there are a lot of different examples of people disobeying the orders of God, and they're punished. The after effects. I mean, I can't think of the woman's name, but she turned and looked at the hill, and she turned into a pillar of salt. I mean, there are a lot of different references when God tells you to do something. It doesn't matter if it comes from him or from one of his prophets, and people disobey, they get burned in the end.
Well, and McCall, you were saying it earlier, is that Saul, because he disobeyed in this particular command, and he didn't wipe them all out, he spared the king. Samuel, the prophet Samuel, came back and drove the next part of that, and you saw a power struggle coming into play between prophet Samuel and Saul, and the people revering Samuel when they should have been revering Saul.
And do you think it's a struggle?
Power.
Do you think it's a struggle? Because I now think it's just a complete shift.
Right.
Because once you take the head off of somebody in front of all those people, for lack of a better term, you are the man. Right?
It's a little bit like Trump and the rest of the Republican candidates there.
Well, it maps across to so many things, because ultimately, the crises of consciousness that people have and the struggles that people have in life, there's, I wrote this, I posted the other day, the master storyteller in Arabian Nights said that people need stories more than bread itself, because they tell us how to live and why.
Yeah.
And so when you look at, and I'm going to throw in any religious text, because I think that there's wisdom that comes from all sorts of different places. This happens to be a biblical show. I think that there's just as much wisdom that could be found in any holy text that that's out there. But there is wisdom, and that's where you struck me before we came in here, because you said he didn't listen to God, and it bit him.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a second, okay, because there's so many stories, biblically speaking, where somebody was told to kill their own kid or go and kill this person, go kill some women and children. And it's like, wait a second, how do you possibly say that that's sane, religious, or spiritual in any way, shape, or form?
That's the whole thing about faith, right? Do you have faith, or do you not have faith?
Faith
that's testing your faith right there.
My faith tells me to go kill this person.
I mean, there is a story in the Bible of, again, got to get brushed up on my Bible, but
all of us do.
We all have to get brushed up. But there's a story about a guy who kills his own kid because God ordered him to do it. But he killed his kid, and then God resurrected his child. Right. He just wanted to prove.
Thank God.
God just wanted to prove and wanted to know if he would be obedient.
But how come? Why don't we see that type of stuff happen today? If it was happening back then, where God's resurrecting kids that we're commanded to kill, why we don't see that on the news?
The Kardashians.
Oh, the Kardashians. So it's a Kardashian.
I just blame them when I don't know.
Yeah, blame the Kardashians. They're taking our attention away from the resurrection of children that's happening.
But can I just say this? Yeah. I find it funny that women have a lot of, and we're coming off International Women's Day. Okay, so I'm feeling my feminism coming in.
All right.
But it's kind of funny how women hold so much influence in so many different areas. You look at Saul's wife, when he's kind of feeling like he doesn't know what to do. She looks at him and she goes, Samuel is the prophet and you are the king. And she really emphasized, you're the man, you're the king.
She was lobbying for him not to follow Samuel, which is interesting.
That really is.
And yet she didn't have enough clout to change his mind, because ultimately he did do what Samuel ordered him.
So he went in and he killed but no, but at the end he didn't.
But speaking of influence of women, going back to your point, the concubine.
Yeah.
Right.
Was pushing him to follow Solomon's lead. And he did.
Yeah, women, we know who's in charge, right?
She had her means.
I was hinting at it, but I didn't say it. But thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Well, it's in honor of Women's Day yesterday, so we know who's in charge. But it's true. I mean, you can look back and see the roles that people have played, and it's always been, even if there's a man that's there in front, there's a woman that's there backing him, telling him that either you can do it or get up off your ass or to go back and make it happen again. And you know,
I was a little confused, so maybe you guys can kind of clear this up for me. So they're arranging for the daughter to be sold. You know, the bridal.
The first daughter,
to be married.
Marev.
Yeah. If we say that wrong, please forgive us.
You know, there was a pretty hot and spicy scene. No blowjobs, but it was pretty hot and spicy. She was basically having sex with the guy that they were trying to arrange this marriage with. What was his name? Mediyahu.
It's close to that. She said Netanyahu.
Netanyahu.
That was the
I'm thinking
Israeli
Israel.
prime minister. Yeah. No, Mediyahu. Yeah.
Either way,
We'll call him Mateo.
Yeah, Mateo.
Yeah.
Either way, doesn't that affect? Like, technically, she's not supposed to be having sex with anybody. That's the whole point of getting married.
Well, they weren't having sex. They were just making out pretty.
Butt naked.
Were they naked?
In the second
missed the
scene.
nakedness.
Yeah,
they
there
were
was the
butt
second scene.
naked.
Really?
And there were moans.
Really?
Who's moaning making out? I mean, that's some good kissing.
So
Let
they
me
were sneaking
find
around.
out.
It happened then, and it happens now.
Yeah,
Which is why she was so distraught when he didn't come back.
Exactly.
Right.
But
So
that
she was
throws
already
me
in love
off
with him.
because it's kind of like, well, you're traditionally you're being married off so you can start having sex. You're not supposed to be having sex before marriage.
But McCall, they do. People do. Get over it.
I know, but
I think actually,
business-wise,
no, I think-
she
I
wasn't
think-
supposed to be doing that.
Right.
So she's giving the goods
She's
before he
giving
got the gold.
Yeah, she's messing up business. That's
Okay.
how I took it. I don't care what you do. I'm just saying, business-wise, she was really jeopardizing her father.
So what do you think about that, dude? Because they were doing an arranged marriage. And once again, hey, and we want to know what you think. We could spout our opinions here all day long, and we will. But we want your opinion. So if you have some insight, some understanding, you see it a different way, by all means, let us know. If you think we're great, if you think we're terrible, let us know. And you can follow us on YouTube. Also, download the iTunes, the podcast. You can find it there. You can tweet us live.
Yeah,
And we have a hashtag, don't we?
A lot of folks
Yeah,
are having a
exactly.
hard time watching it right now, but we'll make sure that you guys can watch the recap.
Yeah.
It'll be on as soon as we get done, so you guys can watch it then.
Yeah. So, what do you think about this whole arranged marriage thing? I mean,
I think that was pretty true to the times, especially
Yeah.
as a princess, as a daughter of a king. That was pretty much to be expected. I'm happy she was in love with the guy she was being set up with. That's a bonus.
Right, yeah, that is a bonus. You never see that, right?
It's just one of those situations where it could go left and it could get really messed up because you're not following the business process. You're supposed to be holding out. And then they go and purify her.
Oh, so you're back on the sex again.
Well,
We were having a different conversation, but
No,
that's all right.
but it really threw me off. Like, well, why is she doing that when she's supposed to be the ultimate prize?
Because she's in love.
Okay,
She's
girl.
in love.
I mean, I think you're right, and it didn't. In the end of the day, I mean, the guy dies anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm just saying it could have been really bad.
Yeah.
So now I don't trust her.
Okay.
You don't trust the daughter.
Fair enough.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't trust her.
So, but what do you think about the whole idea of uniting the tribes through marriage? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? In today's day and age, as yesterday was National Women's Day.
I think it's tough to find in today's day and age in Western society.
Like arranged marriages? They still do it in places, yeah.
And they do it in a lot of places, actually. If you go outside of Western culture, I mean, you've got 1 billion people in India alone that are still following this. As well as different parts of the world, in Eastern societies.
Yeah,
So
my relatives.
it's not familiar to us.
Right.
But it's still happening, and it's 2016.
I don't know what you're talking about. My mom tries to arrange my marriage all the time.
Oh, does it?
If it could happen, my mom would let it happen.
If we can get a little gold and a little salt and some silk, we'll
you
let you
go.
go.
Tell you
We'll let
so.
you go. And
Silk and some olive oil. I'm great.
I think
I'll
my
bring
mom,
olive oil.
my mom would be good with a pack of Oreos. Just please take her.
see, you know what it seemed to me like through this whole thing it was Saul when they brought in the dowry and they said, hey, this is what we're going to give you. Here's the gold for the daughter and all that. And Saul says, that's good, that's good. What's really important in the true gift is the uniting of the tribes of Israel. And he got the applause. And you think, what's what would one think would be in alignment with God's will? Well, aligning a bunch of
Right,
tribes
and
sounds like a
peacefully,
good thing.
right,
Yeah, aligning the
peacefully.
tribes, not killing women and children, not doing these things. I'm having a bit of a disconnect with
and
this.
so the question goes back to the prophet. I mean, how much he's an advisor, clearly, but was this really coming from God?
Yeah, how do you know it's not a crazy old guy
Yeah.
smoking some stuff up on the mountain?
Exactly. But
inhaling the methanol from the ground, whatever's in it.
But traditionally, if they have been deemed to be the prophet, you have to just believe that.
Right.
Okay.
Which I think is what ultimately got Saul to go that path.
But you gotta wonder. And for me, I go then to the metaphorical value of the Bible, and it's like, okay, you've got the lesson that's being passed down is clearly to obey a higher power or to put something above yourself, and to listen. I get that lesson. I think that's something we can take. And I'd like to take lessons from this. If that's what the Bible's made for, I'd love for us to take some lessons. I get that lesson. But I think it really gets confused with God throwing the lesson down with killing of people. Unless there's and this is what you started my thinking going, because unless there's something to, we are, if we're spiritual beings having a human experience, if there's something to the notion of power and the power struggles that happen, and that at some level, if you don't get that learning that you need to take out the last vestige that may remain, your entire tribe's going to be wiped out, and the entire flock will be wiped out, unless you. So there might be some higher level learning on that. From that perspective, what do you think?
I think there is. The Bible's one of the most amazing books ever. So, I just really believe that there are some lessons that applied then, that apply honestly, and still happen now.
Right.
But this was not intended to be a Bible study. This is, in my opinion, Hollywood. This is sensationalism. There's too much guts and gore and sex and blood.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still, when you get to the heart of it, for me, it's a story that was created to pass on wisdom to the world that would supposedly give you a better life, find heaven on earth. And it's like, okay, so where's the heaven on earth in this for me? But we also want to know what you think. So tweet us and let us know your thoughts on that front.
Yeah.
Is it really 7:59?
Yeah.
You're kidding me. We've been talking for an hour?
We started about 15 minutes late.
Yeah, we came in a little bit late.
Well, we're wrapping up in 5 minutes.
We can ask God.
God. Can you let us know?
God's in the production studio.
Since we're closing up, overall view, what'd you think?
What did I think?
First impression.
Overall view, you know what? I liked it enough to get into the story and to follow the story. I loved the little snippet preview that they showed for next week. That was cool because you got to see some of the drama unfolding and stuff. I'll tell you what, I'm into the story of David and Goliath.
Right. Yeah.
I'm into seeing some of this stuff laid down that I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to go to school and share it with you guys. How about yourselves?
Absolutely. I enjoyed it. I love anything along the lines of history and epic. Like I said, the one thing that bothered me a little bit, and this is nitpicking, was the women's earrings. I don't know if anyone noticed
What happened with the earrings?
I'm taking it away from Bibles and values and going to the fashion for just a minute.
People are getting killed.
Yeah,
right. You're worried about
How
the
did you
earrings.
even see an earring?
You know
with all
what?
that blood?
Because in my world of historic biblical times, there were either no earrings or long dangly. These were hoops like I could find at Claire's or something. That stuck on me at the beginning, and every scene they were showing a woman. Ladies, if you're watching this next week, keep an eye on the earrings. You're going to see what I mean.
Yeah,
I'm going to look out for that.
You're gonna see what I mean. But overall, I did like it. I'm looking forward to next week.
Did you? Yeah.
To kind of piggyback off of what you were mentioning about David and Goliath, I think that is the story that everyone knows. It's universal. Right. And I like the way they're building it up and making sure you understand where David started, how people regarded him and what's going to eventually happen. Because, this is the Bible. We know how all this plays out, right?
Yeah.
But I like the way they're setting it up. And it's funny, with all the biblical works that have been out, I don't know if I've ever actually seen them depict David with this slingshot. Every time I think about David in the slingshot, I think about Bart Simpson and one of those, classic slingshots. But to see this leather long strap and all that goes into it was really cool for me.
And you could see him getting ready, right?
Yeah, I
loved
watching his slingshot process.
I love that too. And there's historians that say, and I had heard this come out, maybe a few months ago, but the historians were talking about, David was not a nobody. They were really good. These shepherds that were out there that had nothing but
like
a sling,
snipers.
and like snipers at the time. So that it was, while it's an impressive feat that he could beat Goliath with the sling and with the rocks, they were pretty darn good. Yeah. So it was they were trained to do that.
No Bart Simpson slingshots for this David.
So let's go in that a little bit. I thought there's a lot of lessons to come. And I have to go back to the metaphor once again of the very first scene. And the sheep being slaughtered because David was asleep and he slept through it. And the people are being slaughtered and the king gets the message. So it's just kind of thinking big picture. The king gets the message. You have to kill every single one of them. And if you don't, the bad things are going to happen.
It was definitely foreshadowing what was going to come.
Being asleep
was
at
an
the
element of
throne,
that,
being
yeah.
asleep at, as you're uniting the tribes.
I love the way you tied that together.
Well, thank you.
I love it. Because it's true.
You brought me along for a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know who gets
Not just because you're cute.
Thank you.
You know
but
who's
you guys can back. You're the women behind me.
International Women's Day.
International Women's Day. Yeah.
The best actor, and I guess an animal can be an actor, was the sheep, though. Did you guys get a kick out of that sheep? They're walking around,
I wonder
out
if they had it tranquilized. That was my thought. Was that a
it's
real
terrible.
sheep? And if it was, it had to have been
Yeah,
tranquilized.
what sheep is just
Cruelty
going
to
to sit on
animals.
your shoulders? And the
Looked
sheep
pretty
looked
real
so
to me.
peaceful. He looked like he was going to say something at one point.
He did, and with that, we have to say something. We have to wrap it up here because we got people that are beating down the door to get in here, and so we're gonna have to say good night. But reach out to us. We
thank you for following because it's going to be a good season.
It's going to be a great season. I think this is going to build up. We're really happy that you were here. McCall, tell them how they can get a hold of you and communicate with you.
All right, you guys. You can catch me on social media at Saul McCall Hall when sports and pop culture collide, and now when the Bible collides.
And I'm Katerina Cozias at Katerina Cozias. I'll see you next week.
Beautiful. And Chris Howard, you can reach me at Chris Howard Live on Twitter or at legendarylivingdaily.com and legendarylivingtv.com for the YouTube channel for AfterBuzz TV.
Woohoo.
Over and out. Be
See you
here
next
or
week.
be square for next week.
And read your Bible.
And read your Bible.
Yeah,
be ready
go
for
home and
that.
Read your Bible. Be
Yeah,
ready for
read my
next
Bible.
week.
Be ready.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.